Hey guys, so I was invited to do the Beyond Bizarre Walking Tour in Portland, Oregon, and I'm a little nervous that it's going to be super scary. So I brought along a cameraman so he could film it and make it look good, and also this guy.
What's up?
Nice!
Yeah!
Yay!
She was scared, so I'm gonna intimidate.
So I brought this.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, so we're gonna have fun, and we have a tour guide, which I'll introduce to you later.
I'm Allison. I'm going to be your resident. This is a fancy name for tour guide. This is our Beyond Bizarre tour, which is our paranormal tour, which I think maybe some of you know a little bit about.
Yeah.
A little bit? Okay, cool. So paranormal means not normal, right? So we're going to be exploring all kinds of things that aren't normal. So not just hauntings and ghosts, but also just weird, bizarre things that kind of make Portland. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Sound like a good plan?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I kind of like to gauge people's comfort level on like a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being, I don't believe in this whatsoever, this is totally silly, and 10 being, oh my gosh, ghosts are 100% real, I've seen one, I've touched one, it's touched me. So I go like 1, we can raise hands, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is great. Okay, perfect. So I'm probably going to walk backwards a little bit at a time.
Should we follow you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you see me about to walk into something, I fully encourage you to let me know.
Okay.
Okay.
Or not.
You don't have to, but the tour could end very abruptly at that point. So we are at our first spot. And this is just a little side note, because most of this tour, the first part for about 1.5 miles, we're going to be above ground doing street level stuff, but then we're actually going to end up underground. And that will scare you while we're underground, because these are all over our city. It will echo, you will jump, you will go, ugh! And I'm like, no, remember at the beginning of the tour when I jumped, it was that. That's all it is.
Cool.
Not paranormal, very normal.
Got it. Cool.
Very normal, okay.
Very
Here we
normal. Scared everything down there.
Oh, well, the funny part about that is Old Town Police's basement, and I have heard people occasionally get startled.
That's funny.
And I'm like, sorry, my bad. You do it to us all the time, just saying. So something really, really cool is about to happen.
I'm excited.
We're in Chinatown.
Whoa.
Just happened.
Ow.
Something else really cool is about to happen. I'm gonna walk backwards across the street.
Oh my god.
You are a rebel today.
Well, in Portland and actually Oregon, pedestrians technically always have the right of way.
Yeah,
you can still get exactly. You can still get a jaywalking ticket, but if I got hit, it's totally their fault.
Yeah.
So Chinatown, super cool. You know how you can tell we're in Chinatown?
The sidewalk.
Lampposts.
Sidewalk.
So, in the 1980s, we painted our lampposts red, slapped some gold leaf on them, and said, "Yay, Chinatown!" Because we wanted to honor our history, our culture, diversity, all that good stuff. Well, this did two really, really important things. The first thing it did by slapping this veneer and paint all over this part of the city is it raised the rent so astronomically high that it pretty much priced everybody out of this section of the city, unfortunately. Another thing it did is in terms of honoring our history, culture, diversity, all that good stuff, is that prior to 1942, this 100% was in no way Chinatown. Not at all. Not in any capacity. It was actually known as Mihamachi, which translates to Japantown.
So, not the same at all.
Not the same at all, no. But, you know,
That offended two
1942, any history buff at all? A little bit?
No.
Okay, 1942, World War II, mandatory internment. And we mandatorily interned very proudly all of our Japanese American citizens at the time, 6 weeks before the federally mandated internment. And we were like, yeah, we did it, Portland, good job. But Chinatown, denying 60 years of history and all its glory, kicking its residents out since 1986. But we're here, and yay. Another thing I really like to point out is going to be directly over my right shoulder, and you'll see it, the Chop Suey Hung Farlow cocktail sign. You may notice that there is a giant sign, but no actual restaurant of Chop Suey Hung Farlow cocktails underneath, because they were actually priced out with everybody else in the early 90s. They do still exist. They're over in Southeast Portland. Good people, we love them, but the sign is still there. Why? Here is why, okay? The neighborhood association was like, we cannot lose this sign, because if we lose this sign, nobody's gonna know it's Chinatown anymore. because the giant Chinatown gate is not a giveaway.
Yeah. Or the red lamp.
Exactly, but the hung far low sign, this is
Yes,
Chinatown.
that is.
So by the late 1990s, it was rusting and nearly fell off the building. And the city was like, it's gotta go. It is a hazard. And they're like, wait, we can raise money. So they raised private funds, upwards of $5,800. And the fundraiser was entitled Re-erect Hung Far Low. And they put him back up, and there he is, and this is totally real. That is 100% true, and it will be there forever.
Yes.
It's pretty much free advertising for the company because they don't provide any funding for it at all.
No, yeah.
But it really means Red Flower Restaurant in Cantonese. So it actually means a real thing. It's not just made up funny, haha, hung far low. Good one. So our gate, you notice, as we walk past it, is actually the second largest in the United States. Second only to San Francisco. San Francisco. Now, Washington, D.C. is attempting to give us a run for our money, but they're putting flags on top, and we got flags too, so it's going to be pretty cool. So we're actually going to stop right here. Look at this fantastic window.
It's gorgeous.
It is. It's only on my tour. Whew. Okay, it wasn't always just a window. Actually, up to March of 2013, this was the 24-hour Church of Elvis. The 24-hour Church of Elvis was a really, really nifty thing. It was a coin-operated church, and for 25 cents, you could non-legally marry anyone or anything you so desired. However, for a phone call, $25 and 2 days' notice, the artist Stevie herself or an Elvis impersonator would come out and marry you legally.
Right here.
Right here, and
On
on
the street.
December 22nd, 2006, my sister and brother-in-law got married right here for 25 bucks. So anytime a wedding was going on, it was legal to drink in a 10-foot radius. So we'd pop the champagne, have a great time. The funny thing about that wedding, other than the fact that it was a wedding at a coin-operated church, was that my cousin, directly following their wedding, married a packet of red wines for 25 cents because she really loved red wines. When that was removed, we had a little memorial service for it, and we all talked about, you know, our memories of the 24-hour Church of Elvis, and I realized that I myself have actually been married 6 times. Probably the proudest moment of which for me was my first marriage to my first CD ever, which was Paula Abdul Spellbound.
Yeah.
So she and I are still going strong. Yeah. Woo. But probably my most memorable wedding was to a 6-pack on my 21st birthday. We'll all do it when we get there. But that leads me to a fun fact, which is that Portland happens to be the microbrew capital of the world, which is just a cool fact about Portland. So we have more microbreweries per capita than anywhere else. But on that, microbrews are not our most popular beverage of choice in terms of alcohol. Do you want to guess what it might be? I'll give you a hint. It's not tasty. It's not wine or liquor. It is in fact PBR. Half Blue Ribbon is the most popular alcoholic beverage sold in Portland city limits. But I will draw your attention to Ground Control. It's a super cool arcade. I'm not sure if either of you have ever been. Nope.
No.
So Ground Control up to, I think, 9 p.m. lets anyone in, and then after that it's a 21 and over establishment. But it's pretty cool because the whole upstairs is completely dedicated to pinball, which was actually a completely illegal activity in the United States until 1956.
Huh.
It was considered gambling. It was totally illegal. And the first person to bring pinball into our city was a guy named Big Jim Elkins. He brought an illegal pinball machine in. It was somewhere in this region, which is why they've been so dedicated to making sure they offer pinball for everyone to tell the story of Jim Elkins, which is great. So right now we're going to be rounding the corner, coming up on the Rosland Theater. So let's stop right here and talk about it. Rosland, right here. Have you ever been to a show at the Rosland?
Yeah.
Nope. So right here, the blue marquee that's sparkling behind me. It wasn't always the Rosland. Up into, or in the 1980s, it was actually the Starry nightclub. The Starry nightclub was owned and operated by Larry Horowitz, otherwise referred to as Scary Larry. And it was managed by a young 21-year-old named Tim Moreau. Now, Tim Moreau was a good kid. He was a business student at PSU, doing his thing here in Portland. Good guy. What Tim did not know is that Larry Horowitz here at the Rosland, or at the time Starry nightclub, was operating the country's largest ticket counterfeiting system we had ever seen. And Tim Moreau had no idea until he found out. And he wanted nothing to do do with it, so he decided he was going to inform police. He went to his bartender on staff. He said, this is the deal. I really want to make sure, okay, I'm going to be gone for a few hours. There's this big thing happening. I want to make sure you're okay. And the bartender was like, oh no, that's the worst news I've ever heard, except I already know and I'm totally in on it and I don't want you to go tell police. So, he never did. 3 days later, his car was found at PDX. Larry Horowitz sold this place off, moved to Vietnam, opened up about 10 more nightclubs. Everything was great, right? Fantastic. Well, 1999 comes along and the bartender gets a bit of a conscience. The bartender goes to police. He states, okay, I know where Tim Moreau is. Police are like, great, because mind you, they're looking for him in connection to the counterfeit ring. It's like, great, okay, but I need you to know 2 things. First thing is I didn't do it. Second thing is I just drove the car. And the police are like, say what? It's like, okay, Larry Horowitz decapitated him, and he is buried on the Washington side of the Columbia River Gorge, and I can take you to his body. And sure enough, 21-year-old Tim Moreau, there he was, no head and all. But where's Horowitz? Horowitz is off in Vietnam. And guess what? Vietnam does not extradite on murder charges. Hey! Fantastic! We were finally able to get Larry Horowitz back in 2007, but it wasn't on murder charges. We did extradite him on tax evasion.
Awesome.
Tax evasion. So we get him back, and Vietnam was like, you can murder someone, we don't care, but if you weren't paying your taxes there, you're probably not paying him here, so we need you out. We get him back, we sentence him to 7 years in prison for murder. 7. And yeah, it's not a lot. He served 3.5. Okay? He was released in late 2011. Woo! Yay, justice system. I will let you know I've done a Facebook search in the Portland metro area for Larry Horowitz's. There are 3 that I've found. Just as a precaution, I blocked them all just in case. I'm sure they're great guys. Sure. I don't really tell a great story about them, so I'm not sure they'd appreciate it. Something pretty cool happens there every single year in June. This year it was June 7th. It's a massive protest. It involves lots and lots of people. It involves bicycles. Careful. Gotcha. She's got my back. Thanks, man. It involves bicycles. You know what that might be?
Naked bike ride.
Naked bike ride.
Gotcha.
Gonna say it too.
Yeah.
You got it.
Absolutely. And I would like to let you know that I myself have proudly participated for the past 6 years.
Nice.
Now, of course, it's a huge protest about fossil fuels and all that stuff. So with it being a protest, obviously the police are going to be out in force as well. So just this year, do either one of you want to make a guess as to how many people were arrested?
2,000.
Now, oh, that's a good guess. So I'll let you know.
More or less?
There were 11,000 plus protesters involved.
And how many were, not that many were
Oh,
arrested?
yeah.
0.
How did that
0
happen?
people were arrested because, fun fact, totally legal. Oregon is the only state where it's 100% legal to be 100% naked at any given time on public property, as long as you follow 3 rules. The first rule is you must keep moving. You can't just stand there. The second rule is you must have a purpose. I love cheese. So as long as you really love cheese. And the third rule is you can't be excited. There it is in the back. Yes. Can't be excited. You got to stay calm, have a purpose, and keep moving. And I want to let you know.
Purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't really love cheese, you just love cheese.
You just. I love cheese. Cheese is
Nonchalantly
pretty good.
love cheese.
I like it. She's love
I
cheese.
love cheese.
Exactly. But that does bring me to a fact that a lot of people seem to like to state about Portland, which is that we have the most strip clubs per capita out of any city in the U.S. Have you ever heard this?
Yes.
It's a pretty popular fact that people spout about. But guess what? Not true.
Oh.
Not true at all. We don't have that title. Actually, Columbus, Ohio has the title of most strip clubs per capita. We do have the most strip clubs per square mile.
Okay.
So we got that. And just to balance everything out, we also have the most churches per square mile.
Okay.
So
There you go.
we covered all
Right
of our
next to
bases.
the
Yeah, so
clubs.
here's a strip club,
Yeah.
here's a church, here's a strip club, here's a church.
So right now, directly behind me, you're going to see the Benson with the green roof. That's where we're going to be heading. It's pretty cool. We're going to be talking about quite a few things, and this is actually where we're going to get some ghost hunting material. Are you guys familiar with utilizing some ghost hunting equipment?
A little bit.
A little bit? Cool. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. We're also going to be going inside the Benson, so we're going to have to use our classy indoor voices. Okay? It's kind of my thing.
So, all right, I'm ready.
This is my indoor voice. It's not at all. That's not my indoor voice. That's my pretend, making fun of myself voice. But, so I like to also just drop some facts about types of hauntings as well. So are you familiar with object haunts?
Yes.
Yes, an object haunt. Are you familiar with intellectual hauntings?
Maybe.
Okay, so an intellectual haunt, that's actually what we're going to be talking about in the Benson. It's a spirit or entity that is actually physically capable and knowledgeable of what's actually going around.
Okay.
So
That's handy.
Sounds kind of scary. Oh my god.
they're aware that times are changing. They're aware of where they're at and what's going on. And then there's also the residual haunt, which would be someone who isn't aware that the surroundings are changing, that they're or an imprint.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Talk about the Benson now. All right, so the Benson, super gorgeous Benson. So the Benson, built by Simon Benson around the turn of the century. He came over from super classy East Coast, and he was like, "What are you doing, Portland?" So mind you, Portland would have looked very different. It would have been dirt, and then it would have been pretty much business-wise: saloon, brothel, boarding house, hotel, saloon, brothel, gambling den. That's pretty much all we did here. We were a shipping town. We were a town of lumberjacks and farmers. We really didn't have a purpose for this. But he was like, "No, we're classing up Portland, I'm doing it." He imported marble from Italy, stained glass. He staffed it with international staff, like butlers from France and a whole kitchen crew from Germany. I mean, this place is the epitome of class, okay?
Got it.
Well, yeah, we're going to talk about
Okay.
this. This is the essence of it. So every time his staff would head out, though, on their lunch breaks, they would come back pretty drunk. And I mean, really drunk. And Simon Benson himself was a teetotaler, so he wanted nothing to do with alcohol. He actually wanted it to be illegal. And he's like, "This is unacceptable, what's going on?" His staff would be like, "I'm so sorry. Everywhere we go requires us to purchase alcohol." Because at the time, it was totally legal for a saloon or a bar to require you to purchase whatever they wanted for the day. If they had too much gin, they'd be like, "I'm sorry, for you to sit down, you must have 3 gins." That's the worst thing ever. I'm totally gonna have 3 gins with my. Oh, okay, sorry. They'd show up sauce, and Benson was not having it. So he wanted to make sure if you did have too much, which happens, that you always had a clean drink of water. So Benson gave us the Benson Bubbler. The Benson Bubbler is super cool. It's only in 3 cities on the entire planet. Okay, so there's over 40 here in Portland. There's 1 in Seattle near Pike's Place Market. Just one. We gifted to them, and then 1 in our sister city of Sapporo, Japan. So have you ever been up to Washington Park at the Japanese gardens?
Yeah.
That was their gift to us. They gifted us this gorgeous garden, and we gave them water fountain.
Just one?
Just one.
Oh,
You're
wow.
welcome, sister city. But it's great. Who doesn't mind getting their hand wet? You? Okay, roll your sleeves up.
Okay.
Back up a little bit. This is my favorite trick. Okay, when I was a kid, mind you, plug that one up with your hand.
Okay.
Best you can. I'm gonna do this back up.
Wait, I got it.
Okay, so that's a mean trick to do to your friends when they've had too much. Or my dad, who happens to be blind, we would get him with that all the time when I was a kid. He learned very quickly not to drink out of this. We were jerks, I can't help it. Oh, it's where we get out the fun equipment.
The bag comes in
Exactly.
handy.
So I'm gonna hand them to everybody. You're probably not gonna see the lights very well out here, so we'll turn them on when we get inside.
Yours has a please call.
Yeah,
mine doesn't.
Call 503.
Oh, it's down.
Here.
I shouldn't give out that number.
Oh, you should. And does anybody want to try a thermometer as well? So we have this point laser thermometer. Just point it and it gives you the read.
Yeah, I do.
It's a really great way to kind of
excited.
see about temperature changing and all that stuff, okay? Okay. So we're going to head in. As we head in, you're going to see a very large staircase on your left, and then we'll talk about these once we get upstairs, okay?
Gotcha.
Here we go.
It sounds a little like piss outside.
So it could happen. You're telling me it could happen. Awesome.
Way to hit right on that one.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh,
So now we're going to talk about our EMFs that I handed out. Yours is on. So now, once you hit the button and that green light is on, it's on. You don't need to hit a button anymore.
Got it.
You don't need to touch anything. It is on and activated. What we are looking for is fluctuations or spikes.
Ooh,
I just had one.
Might be.
Yeah, that's absolutely what we're looking for. Okay.
We talked about it too much.
Whoa. Whoa.
Maybe if we just put them together, that happens.
It doesn't.
Oh.
It
Don't
doesn't.
say that.
Don't say that. You're wrong.
You're wrong.
So
That's
I
real.
also really like to encourage taking pictures if you have a cell phone, anything like that. It's a really good way to capture evidence.
I feel like I should pull mine up too.
Just in case.
Since everybody's-
But also just be aware that cell phones can cause reactions on this, but they have to be right up on it, okay?
Right
this is
up on it.
Right up on it.
Mine
I
can
think
do
my
that.
phone is haunted. I think we
Yeah, mine's
I think
not.
we can
Mine
agree
is-
with that.
Not happening.
So you really, I mean, sconces and things like that, they aren't going to have enough electricity to make anything happen.
Your
So
phone does.
your phone does, and this is insane. We never. So what? Okay, so I'm going to keep talking, but just tell me to be quiet if you start seeing stuff happening or if you're feeling something,
Oh my,
okay?
Wait. Oh, it went away.
It went. It stopped.
Does
Okay.
it?
This is crazy. This is great. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to continue though. So we're going to talk about the catering office. The catering office wasn't always a catering office. In the 1920s, it became the switchboard operator's room. And now, mentally, we're in 1952, okay? 1952,
Okay.
here we are. Woo, in Benson. Still the switchboard operator's room. When you're in the switchboard operator's room, it was really, really important that the door was shut and locked, because in a switchboard operator's room, there's live wires. There's all kinds of things in there that you can't have people who aren't trained dealing with. There was a young woman in there doing her job. Whatever, she heard the door click open. She glanced up at the mirror above her desk and she saw a gentleman standing behind her in a top hat and tails. She said, "I'm sorry, sir. Guests are not allowed in my office." He nodded. She went about her business. She didn't hear the door shut, so she glanced back up once more and she said, "I'm sorry, sir. Guests are not..." And as she turned around, no one was there. She glanced up at her mirror once more. He nodded once more. He exited the door, shut it, and locked it behind him, which upset her. She headed down the stairs to the bar over in the lobby to the bartender and said, "Hey, I don't know how he's doing it. There's a guest, top hat, tails. He's got a key to my office." And the bartender was like, "Whoa, top hat, tails, and a mustache?" And she said, "Yes, he's got a key." He's like, "No, no, no, he is not a guest. He's been coming around for the last couple weeks. We cannot figure out who he is. He comes up to my bar. He never orders anything. He nods and he walks away. We really cannot figure out who he is." Now this went on for a couple more weeks and they couldn't figure it out. Finally, in 1952, what they were doing was they were doing tons of renovations, because this was built around the turn of the century. They were getting everything up to code, putting electricity everywhere, making sure everything was safe. During those renovations, they were also doing archiving, right? On newspaper articles, making sure they had the history of the Benson all intact. And their front page for the grand opening, of course, was Mr. Simon Benson himself. Top hat, tails, and a mustache. But he passed away in the 1920s, so he would not have been around in 1952 to check up on people. And the reason we come up here and we don't go down to the lobby where he was also seen is because this is the last place he was seen. Which is probably about 6 months ago now. People kept seeing in the reflection of the mirror on the staircase a gentleman pacing back and forth in a top hat. Now, a top hat in Portland, honestly not that out of place anymore. But they'd come up here and no one would be here. And they'd see him again and they'd come back up and they couldn't figure it out. Finally, an employee said, "Is it possible that it could be Simon Benson?" And everyone was like, maybe. So they looked around and actually found out that a very large pipe had burst in the woman's restroom and it was flooding. And he was like, "Hey guys, my hotel, let's take care of this, okay?" So he always comes back to make sure his hotel is in good order. He's here watching everything going on. And he's what we consider an intellectual haunt, because he is aware that things are changing. And he's here to keep up on that and really make sure his hotel is what he intended it to be. So now we're going to spread out